I was a 17-year-old kid. I played Call of Duty, and that's why I did it, you know.
What did you learn about that experience, that time you were there?
I actually got worse physically the longer I was in that program. Bodybuilding in the military was easier than the first few months of bodybuilding once I got out.
And what would you say was some of the things that you learned the most from those coaches over the years?
Very, very smart. He was very brilliant and ahead of his time with a lot of different things. And
start a business while someone prepped for the Olympia. Nice.
Yeah, I burned myself out.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. I've never had like a normal job outside of the military. And the military is not super normal either.
So tell us about Tiff.
I just slid into her DMs like forever ago.
Did you actually?
Yeah. I noticed that I like to have control of things.
So working together, living together, prepping together.
We know we have each other. We know we love each other.
This is a C-bum one, I'm afraid.
Chris has definitely pushed me a lot to like do more with like business-wise. And that motivates me a lot. Like to do more, be better.
You are quite a philosophical person. Am I right?
A lot of professional bodybuilders would complain and say how hard their life is. And I'm like, bro, like, do you realize every amateur does what you do plus a full-time job?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no one cares what you're going through.
Yeah.
Anything is possible if you have enough grit or enough consistency. Like, I feel like a lot of my life was kind of leading to this point where...
Hi everyone, welcome back to Walk with Bex. I'm back in the studio with another special guest to interview today, and this is a really special one. He is the third youngest bodybuilder to turn pro, the second most classic physique wins, the most wins for best poser, the most Arnold titles, and the most runner-ups at the Olympia. And most recently has just won the Dubai Pro Show and qualified for this year's Olympia. My guest today is none other than Terrence Ruffin, aka Rough Diesel.
Hey, I like the introduction.
Did I get it all right?
Yeah, all those first though are like barely first. Like one more win from somebody and it could be tied, you know?
Well, you're on prep for peak week number 2.
Yeah.
So we have another one in the cards potentially. But thank you so much for joining me today. I understand that your schedule's very tight, busy. You've been in Dubai a few weeks now, obviously preparing for the Dubai Muscle Show, and you're on peak week now for the Legion Sports Festival in Nevada, which you're literally flying out for in a couple of days.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. So let's start first with all of those mega achievements, all achieved before the age of 30, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I like to point that out because I turned 30 in like 3 weeks. But
no way.
So every single week you'll probably hear me say I'm still in my 20s until I can't say it anymore. Yeah.
But that's an amazing achievement. And so you've been in the game, what, 9, 10 years? And this will be your 7th Olympia? Or 8th?
I did skip one.
2019, right?
2019. Yep. Yeah. But every year that I've actually competed and tried, I've been. And yeah, I've been bodybuilding since 2013. That was my first show. Turned pro in 2014. So coming up on a decade as a pro pretty soon. It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
That is exciting when you think about it. And being a young bodybuilder turning pro at 21, you must have started weightlifting well before that. Where did it all start?
I started weightlifting. My mom was dating this guy, and he had a little home gym. So when we would go visit, I didn't have anything else to do. So I would go work out, and I didn't really gain a whole bunch of muscle, but I got more tone. I guess I did gain some muscle because I got a little bit more defined, but I was still very, very thin. And, you know, football kind of took over, so I kind of stopped training as much, but I got back into it after I joined the military.
Okay. So how old were you when you started training then? What age was that?
The first time I picked up some weights was when I was around 13, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty young to be expecting to grow some muscle, but great that you got into it at that age and started to see progress. And obviously you have a thirst for sport and activity. Like you said, you played football as well. So tell us about the military. When did you join the Royal Forces?
Yeah, so I graduated early from high school, and my mom was like, you're not going to sit at home, so, you know, you can go to college or you can join the military, because I was in, like, they call it ROTC, like a military class that you take. And so I was like, I'll join the military. I am exhausted with school. So I joined the military at 17. joined the Air Force in the hopes of like doing special forces. I made it pretty far. I had a month left before I would have graduated, but I ended up, they call washing out, not making it through, and then they gave me a different job, electronic warfare.
Okay. And what was the reason for you washing out or not making the cut, so to speak?
So there is this week, they call it FTX or the field training exercise. And you go out in the woods for a week and you basically everything you've learned up until that point you have to implement. So like navigating from, one point to another in the woods, not being too loud, so like learn like going over like radio theory. So like sometimes like if you're close to like a power line or like if there's something going on, you have to be able to learn how to use your radio, proper radio communication, proper like tactics when like there's an enemy around. So
like stealth commander stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So all that type of stuff. And
like Call of Duty, but like in real life.
Honestly, that's what I tell people. I was like, I was a 17-year-old kid. I played Call of Duty, and that's why I did it. But like you get old, you get into it, and he's like, oh, this is not Call of Duty. This shit actually
this is
hurts.
actually real.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. But I end up watching out because there's only so many mistakes you can make while you're out there, and I end up making too many. So like, I think the big one was the whole group of us was too loud going out there, so that was a mark against everybody. The second mark was I fell asleep at one of my points. So I made it. The crazy thing is, so like when you're out there a week, they say, oh yeah, you can get 6 hours of sleep each night. But the caveat is you get 6 hours once everyone's made it back to camp. And not everyone ever makes it back. So you're up, you maybe get like an hour of sleep a night, because you're broken into 4 man. There's four. Okay, let me backtrack. You go out there with a group of 40, and they split you into 4-man teams. And so one person from that 4-man team is always awake while the other 3 are sleeping, and you rotate.
Like on watch type thing.
Yeah. So you don't get much sleep at all while you're out there. So that was me. I made it to my point, yay. And then I'm waiting to be picked up by the instructors, and I just
passed out.
Yeah, wake up. So that was strike number 2. And then strike number 3 was I ended up failing a navigation in like a Humvee. And so I had to retake it. I ended up passing it. But I had left a mark on my paper, my map, and that's one of the things they check for too. Is like every time you do a new mission, you're supposed to reset everything, clean everything, and yeah.
So really specific and obviously militant. You're in the military.
Yeah.
What did you learn about that experience? That time you were there? You were there from what, 17 to 20?
Well, for that type of training, just 6 months, but in the military, 6 years.
Wow.
From that experience within itself, I learned that I'm way stronger than what I thought I was. Like, it sucked. Like, they definitely pushed me very hard. That training isn't meant to make you better. It's meant to see how far you can push yourself. Like, I actually got worse physically the longer I was in that program because they just beat you down. But definitely mental fortitude, and it helped me a lot with bodybuilding for sure. Bodybuilding is definitely very difficult, but like the things I've learned about myself from that experience is carried over, very, very well.
Can you think of any experiences that were really mentally tough that you can think back and think, gosh, that was a really hard task that we had to do?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind you've got prep brain right now and you're a week out. Apologies.
No, there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, there was different instances like where that week in particular is hard just because there's the lack of sleep. And depending on what time of year you go, it can be really bad. So we went like early spring, so it would rain a lot, and then so my clothes would get soaked. And then at nighttime, it would get down to like the 20s or 30s Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius, but I would be freezing at night in just a dirt hole, that would probably be the hardest part of that whole experience, just sleeping in the rain, sleeping in wet clothes. Outside of that, just I wasn't very good at the long distance running.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at sprinting. I'm good at, like, obviously, you know, us being bodybuilders, we have all that fast twitch muscle. But all that endurance stuff was not my forte at all. So just, and it's very much mental. Like, I could keep going, and I kept going, but it definitely wasn't easy. You know, I ended up with like tons of shin splints, and like, I remember physically, like, it would hurt to like stand up, and I'm like 18 years old. I'm like, I feel better now than I did then.
Yeah.
Going through that process. The only other thing I have was pretty funny. This kid, I'll never forget his name, Volatham. Every single morning, you meet up on like in this sand pit, and everyone's supposed to have everything in the same spot, tied down the same way, you know, done properly. This kid did not fill up his water bottle and did not tie it down. So the instructors found out and gave him a 50-gallon jerry can to carry around just to show him the importance of water. And so
50 gallons.
Yes, it's insane. Insane.
How much does that weigh?
Actually, I'll take it. I'm sorry. 50 liter. There we go.
Okay.
That's still a lot, but like
Still.
a little bit more manageable than 50 gallons.
I was like, Jesus.
Shit. But yeah, so 50 liter. So like he you know, he has to carry this for a week, and you know, you see him struggling, and then later, like 3-4 days later, we're running, and then they find out he didn't fill up the jerry can. So instead of punishing him this time, they punish the rest of us. And the way they punish us is at like 1 a.m. in the morning, they wake us all up, tell us to get dressed, go into the front yard, and they make us exercise and just spray water in our face for like 2 hours straight while we do push-ups, sit-ups, all types of crazy calisthenics.
All because you were his teammates.
Yep. And then he just, and I think this is brilliant. And the funny thing was, we're all exercising, and he's just standing in the middle holding like a 16-ounce water bottle, like a 250 milliliter water bottle. And he just stands there while we actually do all the work.
He had to do none of it.
He didn't do anything. And I'm like, that's brilliant for the instructors to do something like that. So that was, yeah, I'll never forget that one. That was fun.
But being in the military taught you a lot of mental and physical strength, as you just said, and comparing that to bodybuilding, you say it doesn't even come close. Do you think that's why you find bodybuilding not easy, but easier than most people would? Like, you've always come across as a very calm, collected, composed individual. You'd never, in my opinion, seem stressed at all, even on a prep that might be hard. Do you think that comes from that mental resilience and strength that you built in the military?
Definitely. That definitely played a part. But even younger than that, my mom played a big part in it too. We ate pretty healthy. Like, you know, and I, looking back at it, I remember a lot of times we would have grilled chicken from a George Foreman. She would cook stuff like that. Only time I had sodas in the house is when my grandma came to visit. So it was either water or juice. You know, we ate steamed broccoli, sweet, you know, so like a lot of things, like I feel like a lot of my life was kind of leading to this point where obviously she wasn't as strict as a bodybuilder, but I kind of got those healthy food habits, you know, really young. The military helped me with like discipline and like pushing through hard times and things like that.
And I imagine structure and routine as well.
Structure and routine, for sure. You know what's funny? Bodybuilding in the military was easier than the first few months of bodybuilding once I got out. Like, losing that structure was very difficult to like learn how to like to plan my day and do things, you know? Yeah.
Because in the military, obviously, you've got a strict schedule that you're told to do. You have to report to people.
And if you don't eat at that time, then you don't eat at all, you know what I mean? Like, but when I'm like at home working for myself, it's like, oh, I eat whenever, oh, I get up whenever, you know, type deal.
Yeah. So you started really getting into weight training then when you left the military?
No, I did 2 Olympias. While
still there?
Basically 2 preps while, the last one, 2017, I got out maybe 2 weeks before the show.
And how was that then? How would you compare those preps during your military time to now?
Those are definitely harder. I don't know how I feel like these days I couldn't go back and do it. Like getting up at like 4 a.m. And I mean, it's funny because like this is what most people do now. Like a lot of professional bodybuilders would complain and say how hard their life is. And I'm like, bro, like, do you realize every amateur does what you do plus a full-time job?
Yeah. And some of them have families as well.
And a fam. I was, whew. And but yeah, getting up at like 4 a.m. doing my cardio. I'll forget the question.
But basically that structure and routine that you had in the military taught you that, you know, those preps moving forward can be more organized. They felt a lot easier.
Oh, okay,
because,
I got you, yeah.
And I was similar, like as an amateur, I remember my first lot of competitions, I was working full time as a teacher. So it was up at 4 a.m., do my cardio, teach all day in school, sometimes parents' evening, coming back in the evening, meeting hubby at the gym, doing my training session, post-workout cardio, home, prep all your meals, and then start again.
He's like, I don't know how I did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely hard. I remember like the last couple weeks, not last couple weeks, but the last week or so I was still at work. I would get so tired, like I would just go sit in the bathroom and like rest for like 10 minutes, you know? Like, because I was like, I can't stand up anymore. I need like a little bit of a break, you know? Yeah.
Really tough. So obviously you've been in the game, like I said, a good 9-10 years. How would you say things have progressed in your career in terms of your development of your physique from like the first Olympia to, let's say, last year or leading into this year's one?
You know, it's a beautiful thing, like how classic has evolved over the years. I always like to joke, no physique from that first Olympia would probably even win like their pro cards these days. It continues to improve, you know, class physique, and it's really cool to see. And like, again, not many of us from that first Olympia are still like competitive today. I mean, it's myself, Breon, and Robert Timms are like literally the only three that could still have the ability to win a pro show. And no, it's been really cool, even to the point of where like the respect we've gotten over the years. Like, they didn't even have a film crew for the first Class Physique Olympia. It was a pain in the butt to find like a video of myself from that Olympia. I think it's just a cell phone video.
Yeah.
You know,
I've seen photos where it's just you guys backstage. Like that was the only photo you had.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of preferred it because I like shows to be kind of done sometimes. But like the show was set up where like we competed, we took a 2-hour break, and then we did finals, and that was it. All on the expo stage. Nowadays, you know, we're on the big stage and all that stuff. It's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. And then were you self-coached for the first two, or did you have a coach throughout all of them? Because obviously your coaches have changed over the years, and you've worked with many individuals to develop your training and obviously your prep coaching specifically. And obviously you're well known for working with Joe Bennett currently for training program, and John Meadows back in the time, and Hyson is your coach now for prep. Yeah. What about at the start of your bodybuilding career and those earlier Olympias?
Well, the very start was like this bodybuilding couple, John and Heather Blatz out of Gold's Gym in Fort Walton Beach. And they coached me for my first show. And then I moved on to a guy named Caleb Wetherington, and he helped me get my pro card. But Caleb, I love Caleb because he was very honest. He was just a local guy. And he was like, yo, man, if you find someone, you know, I guess better than him in coaching, then he said you should go, you know, because he's like, I believe in you. I think you have a lot of potential, and I'm still like learning. And I'm like,
he wanted what was best for you. He could see your potential. That's
and that's not always the case. I've seen tons of coaches like grasp onto a person and then don't, and then they actually hold them back, you know. So that takes a lot of like love and like, you know, for someone to do something like that. But after that, I ended up working with Matt Porter for, I think 2016, 17, and 18 before he passed. And then John, and now Yassine.
Yeah. And what would you say was some of the things that you learned the most from those coaches over the years? Like, what did they teach you that you weren't already doing that you were like, this is a game changer, and like it really developed your physique or your approach to a prep?
I actually really liked working with Matt because I think he was a good first person to work with because he was very strict. Like, no cheat meals on prep. Like, and if I did have like a cheat meal, it would be specifically what he wanted it to be. It's like it wasn't just like, oh, have a free meal. It was like he was very much into like eating Subway sandwiches. So
Subway sandwiches.
yeah, it was fun. I like, honestly, I really loved working with him, and I had a lot of fun those years. And I don't think he was the best with training, but he was very, very smart. He was very brilliant and ahead of his time with a lot of different things. And I like to say that if he would have been around a little bit longer, he would have kind of reached that level John Meadows had reached, you know? And, then I moved on to John, and John was way more laxed. Like, I remember my first prep, I think my first prep with him was Niagara Falls, and the second one was the Arnold. And I remember those preps, I'm like, he's just like, oh, just eat what you normally eat, you know? We've been like, so like, with Matt, it was a whole process, Pete. You're going to eat this differently. You're going to go to Starbucks and have that coffee cake. You're going to get, this thing. And I'm like, okay. With John, it's like, 2 weeks out, I was eating like cream of rice, 2 whole eggs, and, chicken. On the day of the show, cream of rice, 2 whole eggs, and chicken.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was peaceful. I loved it. I was like, okay, this is easy. I just eat what I normally eat. And, it was surprisingly how simple he did things, and how relaxed he was with like I was like, oh, I'm eating this. And he's like, okay, you can keep eating that, or very different approaches, very different approaches. But I definitely like them both. In terms of like Joe, everyone gets so confused all the time on the internet. Like, they think Joe does like nutrition and everything, and I'm like, he doesn't. He just does work training. I have to explain it every single time. But Joe reached out to me after my win in Tampa in 2016, and I actually really liked the way he approached it. He just shot me a message and said, "Hey, congrats on your win. I saw you on stage. I took a look at your social media, and I see some areas where you can improve." And so I was 22 at the time, I think. So, 22. And I was very honest with myself. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, So I was like, this guy seems like he's smart, so let me go figure out what's happening. And especially because, I turned pro in 2014. And 2015, there was no classic. I was trying to do 212. And I did the Tampa Pro and had only gained 3 or 4 pounds. So I was like, I'm not doing something right, So I would drive, I think it was like 6 or 7 hours once a month to go to learn from him and train with him. And it definitely made the biggest difference, in my pro career, is learning how to train properly. Yeah.
And what would you say are the biggest changes that you made to your training that you feel developed your physique, and things that you continue to do now ongoing?
It was very simple stuff. Like, one is like learning how to train to failure. The other thing was like tracking your weights, logging your reps.
Do you have a logbook?
Yeah, logbook.
No
I actually prefer a logbook. Because the apps sometimes I don't want to be on my phone because I'm like very tempted.
Same.
Yeah, and I think I've learned a lot. Obviously, like exercise selection, things like that. Execution is important. But if people can get those first 2 things down, I think those are the most important 2 things.
Yeah. And it's something that you share obviously with your clients. So let's talk about that. You have obviously I Need in Coaching, which you launched, I think last year, was it? In the lead up to your Olympia prep.
Yep, not good timing. Yeah.
I was like, start a business while someone prep for the Olympia. Nice. So tell us about that. What was the thought process behind that, and how is that working at the minute with regards to you coaching, other coaches on board? You've got a whole like posing area as well, is that correct?
Yeah. It's going pretty good. So I worked for Fit Body Fusion for a while, and they are huge. They might be the largest team. Like, there was 3,000 different athletes. By the time I left, there was 38 coaches.
Wow.
But a couple of different things. One, I just wanted to have my own thing. Like, when I joined, before I joined, I wanted to start my own coaching company, but I had no clue how to start. So I didn't have any help, didn't know where to go. So I decided to work with them. And then two, I just wanted to take things in a different direction. The way they chose their coaches was a little bit different than how I wanted to like choose coaches for myself and be associated with. So I started Iron Eden, and yeah, it's been going pretty good. We have 5 total coaches. Me, myself, me, my wife,
Me, myself, and I. It's okay.
I know, right?
That brain's fine.
Me, my wife, Tiff, Jarek, Alan, and Aaron right now. And then we have the posing coach, Chris. And Chris he's killing it. Like, I'm really proud of him.
I'm surprised you're not the head posing coach, seeing as you have such a passion for posing and arguably one of the best posers in the world. I'm just going to say it.
I burned myself out with coaching. I did it because I did it for years. I did it. I think I finally stopped in like 2020 doing it. I do it occasionally, but very, very rare. But yeah, I burnt myself out.
Yeah.
Really, really bad. And I just wanted to have like that creativity for myself. I kind of feel like like I see some of his posts sometimes. I feel like he might be feeling that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's tough. That's why I respect Kenny so much. I'm like, but Kenny doesn't do a lot of like the routines and things. Kenny just does the mandatories, and I can see how you can last a bit longer that way. I even had a conversation with him about it, about how he's just, how do you like continue to enjoy, doing this for so long? And he just says he gives himself different goals. Like once he feels like one thing's not working for him, then he'll try to he'll just change his goal.
Yeah.
Why he's doing it.
Yeah. So you've got more of a passion for coaching the individuals. I'm assuming it would be athletes that you're coaching, or do you have lifestyle clients on the team as well that's managed by other coaches?
I have a bit of athletes and lifestyle, but I really want to just more so focus on athletes moving forward. Same with Tiff. And so we're restructuring things quite a bit, even to the point where I've been doing a lot more of just the nutrition and supplements. And then Coach Allen's been doing a lot of the training for my clients. And I thought we figured that would be kind of like a better system where what's the word I'm looking for? We can focus more in and give them more attention to like certain aspects of their preps. I know like Cameron and Nick Gloff do that, and they've said it worked really well. So I started doing that maybe a month ago, and it's been really cool making that work. It's the hard part is like with running a coaching business where I'm with who I am and where I'm at is that might be different from like, let's say Callum, because I respect Callum a lot, is people sometimes just want to work with me because I'm like a professional athlete, you know, things like that. And it's a little difficult sometimes to get them to work with other coaches.
Do you have like an interview process then?
Yeah.
Like an onboarding kind of interview process to see, are these legit clients or just super fans? And have they got the potential and kind of the means to be able to pursue this seriously?
But even then, there's certain athletes, and I'm like, these coaches they know as much as me. They just, Alan in particular, I was like, he just doesn't have my parents. He's actually taught some of the courses that I've gone to learn from. So he, in some aspects, he's better than me at certain things. But getting people to understand that could be a bit tough sometimes. But we've gotten a little bit better at it. Yeah.
But even managing the business itself, you've got 5 coaches and, it's your baby, it's your business. That must take a lot of kind of team meetings and things like that. And while you're on the course of your own prep, that's quite challenging mentally.
Yeah, it is. It is. Last year was definitely a learning process with trying to manage that and learning what I can and can't like handle.
Do you have a PA or anybody else that can support you? Yeah.
Now I do.
With the admin stuff.
Yeah. I hired one. Yeah. After the show, I think in January, February after the show. I enjoy it a lot. Like I really do enjoy. I enjoy like managing things and building things. Like I love making the websites. I love like telling the coaches like, okay, here, this is where you're doing well with social media. This is how like you can improve with like your coaching and like setting them up with courses. I actually love that a lot. Like I've only had the military. It's the only time I've worked for anybody. Like I've never had like a normal job outside of the military, and the military is not super normal either. And the cool thing too is like in the military, even though there's a lot of structure, the thing that they do very well is they give people responsibility very, very young, you know? So when I was like, 19 years old, I had different duties I had to take care of myself, different things I had to lead. And when I was like 22, I had people under me. I had to like make sure they were doing their things properly, going to training.
Yeah.
So, that's like, I joke. I was like, if I were like to retire, another thing I would like to do is like what's the guy's name? Manager Matt does.
Yeah.
Yeah, like helping athletes get like contracts and like managing them and make sure they're doing all right.
Nice. And you mentioned Tiff's one of your coaches. So tell us about Tiff, how that relationship started, where you guys met. You're obviously married, but living kind of separate lives at the minute, because obviously you're here in Dubai and you spend a lot of time apart. So
this is the first time, we've been apart. Well, I was in Dubai like a month ago for like a week, but this is like first time like being apart since we've been since she moved in. We met on. I just slid into her DMs like forever ago.
Did you actually?
Yeah. She lived in Cyprus. There's no way I was gonna see her in person, and we met for the first time. I think a year and a half ago. Here in Dubai, we first met here in Dubai.
But you've been speaking the entire time.
Yeah. We've been talking for maybe 2 years. I think 2 years now. But first time we met was in Dubai. No, I take that back. I'm starting to lose track now.
Didn't you propose in Dubai?
I proposed in Dubai.
I remember this.
First time we met was in Cyprus. I flew to see her, and I met her parents. I was like, oh my God, everything.
That's quite an introduction.
Yeah. I got sick, couldn't leave. It's a little embarrassing. I drank the water.
Oh no, you don't do that. You don't do that in Europe. You don't drink the tap water.
You know what's funny? Because she drank it and she's like, it's fine. I'm like, all right. But she's probably, obviously she's from there. So, so and then we met in Cyprus. Then we met here in Dubai, and that's where I got proposed. I proposed to her, and then I saw her one more time in Romania where she got a pro card, and then she moved in. Yeah, pretty quick, pretty fast. Honestly, that happened in a year, I believe. Yeah. Within a year, yeah.
But when you know, you know.
Yeah.
And now you're both off to the Olympia.
It's insane. Yeah, how much she's grown in like this short amount of time is pretty insane in like all aspects of her life. Like obviously, like physique wise, it's been
insane.
It really is. Like I've been seeing the photos she's posting. I'm like, you didn't look like that when I left. And so I'm nervous, but I'm excited to see how she does at the show. Even like when she moved in with me, she had never worked a real job, and now she's coaching people, and she has about 50 clients, and the way she met, like I'm honestly shocked on how well she's done. Like managing the clients and doing different things like that, and how well she's taken to it. I had her go through a lot of courses beforehand. She did like the John Jewett courses. We did a mentorship with Darian Bates, who's out in Australia. Yep. She's with Physique Collective. So she did a lot of like training beforehand, and she picked it up like really quickly. Like, but yeah, super, super proud.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how do you manage that kind of work-life balance? So working together, living together, prepping together. Most people would think that's crazy. Like, how do you manage that?
No, it is crazy. No, it really has been a little hard, to be quite honest and transparent. That's part of the reason.
Especially as a newly married couple, like even married life, the start is tough.
Yeah. And, yeah, it definitely was. So, to be transparent, like, yeah, like her being there last Olympia was not a great experience, and that caused a lot of issues. And it took us a while to kind of figure out and talk about it and get things back on track. And um, going into this Olympia and this show, we had a better understanding, and like that's why she was very okay with me coming out here a little bit early so I could focus on this prep. So, you know, that was very, I didn't, you know, most people wouldn't do something like that. Allow the husband to leave for like a month almost, you know, to do a show. But super supportive, and even to the point like of having to figure that out. Cause yeah, like we have like 2 separate offices now. So like we're just not like on top of each other all the time. We have 2 separate offices. When we go to the Olympia, we'll stay in 2 separate rooms, and then after the show, we'll meet up.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this year we've had a lot more understanding, and we're a lot more like, okay, let's do what we need to do to get our reach our goals. We know we have each other. We know we love each other, and you know, we'll meet up like after the show. You know, and even finding like more times of like setting rules for ourselves, like, okay, let's stop working at this time, let's go out on these days. And you just,
it's having boundaries and kind of compartmentalizing things. Like my husband and I have to do that as well. You know, we run 2 different businesses, we're both bodybuilders, but you have to find that shut off point from work, and when is it us time, and that can be very hard to navigate, because this industry, it is all in, you know, and you both have a very high profile status on social media. You know, you have a presence, and that can impact a lot of things, like keeping on top of Instagram and YouTube.
In the butt, and we're like at the same time, like we're working separately offices, but like we've also talked about like, okay, like how can we like do things together that also include work. So like we've been looking for like a sponsorship for where we can be on the team together. So like if we need to do an event, we can go together, do things like that. Helping each other with social media a little bit more. So it's a weird, it's just finding out what works, I guess. Yeah.
You have to train each other. I had to train my husband to take my photos.
Oh yeah, because I've been
but doing babe, do it again. No, do that one again. That's not quite right.
Yeah, I think it took her like we were at very 2 different points where like I've been in like you said, I've been in the sport for 10 years, and she was just not getting into it. So like me understanding like, okay, this is what you need to do, this is how it works, and like her still like trying to figure it out. And not wanting to listen a little, you know. So
you try and give some direction. It's like, okay, am I husband or am I trying to coach you here? It's, So definitely. I do want to get onto some questions that have come through from Instagram, and had some really good ones actually that we can dive into. But I'm curious, what are the goals now moving forward? So you got Legion in a few days' time. You're flying out to the States. The goal is to obviously go and get that win and top up your wins on your on your leaderboard. And then after that, any other shows? That's the last one, isn't it?
That's the last one, yeah.
And then obviously the Olympia. Okay. And then it's you and Sebum up against each other again. We'll leave it there with that one. But so some questions I had through, I had quite a few, but I'm just going to touch on these ones because I think these would be great for people to hear your opinion of, specifically with bodybuilding. So do you think that this is a Sebum one, I'm afraid, but do you think you'd be as good a bodybuilder if Sebum wasn't around, and vice versa? Does that rivalry and competition make you both better bodybuilders? I thought that was a great question.
No, I think it is. I think in terms of bodybuilding, I don't think he would play that big a part, but Chris has definitely pushed me a lot to like do more with like business wise. Like he is by far obviously like the best who's ever done it in terms of business, and that motivates me a lot. Like to do more, be better, make better deals. They don't always work out, but pushing me in that sense has been really, really awesome. You know, I respect him a lot with everything he's been able to do.
And you even mentioned this on your YouTube. Like you talked about the fact you were going to do France, but then came to Dubai because actually, well, it makes sense. There's more prize money. My sponsors match it. And you've talked openly on YouTube about having to take a step back and really think about what you're doing to progress that as well. You know, that you want to be able to reach the pinnacle of what you're doing on social media. And it's, you know, it takes time, assessment, investment.
Yeah. Learning that has been difficult.
What would you prefer? Do you prefer the camera on you with the videographer, or do you prefer vlogging yourself?
I like a bit of both. I like this new balance that I have with it. Like, me and Daniel worked together like nonstop, like for I think 3 years. Like there were some points where he would film me every single day, and I noticed that I like to have control of things. It's good and bad, I guess.
Yeah.
I noticed that about myself. So, um, I definitely like a bit of both, where I can like sit down and talk about what I want to talk about. Because even to the point of seeing him work, now I understand like he can't have the camera on me all day or know when I'm going to say something or when I want to do something. And if he was filming me all day, that would be like hell, like to like edit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable for you. Sometimes it's a case of something comes into your
Yeah.
mind and you have a moment, a thought, a reflection, and you're like, this is a perfect time to pick up the camera. And it's getting comfortable with that. You are quite a philosophical person. Am I right?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Like I said before, you're very calm, collected, and very stoic in your command. And the next question I wanted to ask is, how have you seen the division change since you started, and the dynamics of bodybuilding? Classic now being the forefront, and we briefly touched on this.
I think it's grown a lot. I personally, I could be wrong. I've had the privilege. Like I've tried very hard to do a lot for Class Physique. Where I've met up with Jermaine before I had meetings. I met up with Jake Wood to talk to him about certain things, about how we can make it better. They don't always listen. They honestly almost never listen. But I've flown there with my own money to like pitch ideas to them about like how Class Physique guys can make more money through like apps and different things, or just lots of different different things. So I think it's been pretty cool to see how much classic has taken off, and I would argue like classic may be getting to a point where we're more popular. Like the conversation I had with Jake Wood was, classic, we have more fans, but our fan base is younger, so they don't have as much money.
Exactly.
So there's gonna be a tipping point sometime soon where we're like actually maybe making more than we should be making more than bodybuilding. I don't think it will be, just because of the prestige and like the legacy of bodybuilders. And they don't track any numbers. So like, but personally, I think that if you were to very soon track like ticket sales and different things like that, viewership, you might find that classic is really getting close to bodybuilding in terms of that. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And you definitely had an impact yourself, being one of the longest in the game since it came, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially with posing and your physique, but winning all of those shows. The third question, kind of similar actually. You've basically touched on it, but do you think that the popularity of classic should be reflected in the prize money?
100%. But it's very. I think so. At the Olympia, at the Arnold, I think it's getting to the point. Like I remember that first Arnold I won. It was. Oh, wait, was it? I got less than bikini. I got less than. I didn't get much at all. It was like 5,000 or 6,000, and then the next year they upped it to like 60. So that was, very, very awesome to see. I do think. I don't know. I do think pro shows should make more, but I do understand from a business perspective, like the average pro show doesn't sell out. It doesn't make any money. But I still think we should get more than 2K, because 2K is just enough to fly there and have your hotel room.
Barely covers the cost of the show.
It barely covers the cost of the show. I would say at a minimum, 5K would be a decent range. I mean, bodybuilders are getting, 10. I think bikini at the show I'm doing is getting 6. I don't know if that's standard across the board, but I think 2K, because it's been 2K since the beginning, and I definitely don't think that should be the case.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going on for a while here, but I do think so I've been getting a lot of questions about why am I doing Legion, and I noticed that specifically in classic, we don't compete that often. Men's physique, bikini, even bodybuilders can compete more often on average.
Several times.
Yeah. And I think a huge deal is probably the prize money. Like, what's the point in doing multiple shows if
it's going to cost me more to travel to it? Yeah. And I think it's an interesting point to talk also about those kind of young aspiring bodybuilders that are coming through the ranks. I think people have a misconception that bodybuilders get a lot of money. Like it's a great sport to go into and you get paid a lot, which is not the case. You actually pay for an awful lot for yourselves. You know, unless you've got good sponsorship deals or you've got, like you said, other businesses and things that you're working on. You know, bodybuilding in terms of longevity, in terms of earning money from it, has to come through other means, and you using that as your passion to develop another business.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am envious of like the old school bodybuilders where all they did was like they would get their muscle development and Joe Weider sponsorship, you know, make 6 figures and chill.
Yeah.
You know, that had to be the life. For sure. Nowadays, you have to learn how to be a videographer, be a script writer, be everything under the sun, you know.
You compare it to other sports like American football or even English football. Footballers, what they earn, it's insane. It's not the same in bodybuilding. But I don't know if the tables will ever turn with that one. But I have 2 final questions for you, which are my closing questions to my podcast. Okay. And the first one is, what would you say over your life in bodybuilding, your career so far? What have been some of the biggest mindset shifts for you? Where have there been moments where your mindset shifted and it's really had an impact on how things have developed for you?
The first one was after my first show. I went into that show super cocky, super confident.
No way.
I was like looking at Cody Montgomery because he was like the best teenager in the division. And I was like, I'm gonna win this show. I'm gonna go compete against Cody Montgomery, and I'm gonna beat him. And I didn't even I didn't win any class. I didn't win the teenager division. I didn't win I placed dead last in the lightweight division in bodybuilding. So that humbled me a lot, and that taught me like, don't focus in on a person. You focus on like being your best that day. And I never set like one person in my sights again after that moment. Another mindset shift might have been, I don't know. That was probably the biggest. Another one. After Matt passed, it took like, there was a lot going on. He passed away. I was literally, the day after he passed away, I moved out of the apartment with my ex-wife. I didn't have anywhere to go or anything at that point. That was 2018, I believe. And I was trying to figure things out. And then I remember like I wasn't focusing on social media or anything like that. And like for a normal person, don't focus on social media. But as a bodybuilder, that's kind of like your job. You know, I had sponsorships and they pay me to post on there. And if you don't, it's an issue, you know? So I remember I started to get my life back on track, and I was at this event with Kai Green and his manager. And I remember his manager was like, hey man, we were looking at doing some content with you, but you kind of like fell off. And I'm like, yeah, I had this go on, that go on. And he's like, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you, like, at the end of the day, no one cares what you're going through. Yeah. And I'm like, at first it kind of caught me off guard, but then I'm like, that is true. Like, I mean, like, obviously you're gonna have some people who actually care, but like, at the end of the day, you have to like pick yourself up and like, and like, push through those hard times, because if you don't, then I like to say you'll end up homeless, and I don't want to be homeless, you know? You know? Yeah.
It's like you have to remind yourself that you have to show up for yourself in
really
all aspects of life. And like you said, everybody goes through hard times.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody does, and nobody's indifferent to that. So I think, you know, understanding that no matter what you're going through, either somebody else is going through worse or you've been through worse yourself and you can push through, is definitely something that you can take forward.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. Honestly,
it's felt quick.
It's gone so fast. It really has. Okay. But I appreciate it. And like I said, I know that you are literally a couple of days out from flying, but taking the time to come here, I think it's been awesome. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what the viewers and the audience think of this podcast. So thanks very much.
No problem.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all of the good things, drop a comment down below. Obviously go and head over and follow Terrence if you're not already and you've been living under a planet for the last... living under a rock for the last 9 years. It's catching.
I like it. Yeah.
And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys. I'm so sorry. I got so carried away. The final question that I had for you, which I want to ask all my guests, is what legacy would you like to leave behind with regards to bodybuilding, or, you know, how people remember you?
You know, obviously, like, I know part of it's going to be posing, and, you know, that's definitely amazing, you know, to be up there with, like, the greats like Lila Brada, Muhammad Makawi. But there was a point where I was bodybuilding and I didn't know why I was continuing. And the why I found was I want to show people, actually what I want my legacy to be is to show people, like, anything is possible if you have enough grit or enough consistency. Like, personally, I believe that there's a lot of people out there more genetically gifted than me, but mentally they fall by the wayside. You know, they can't get their mindset right. And I think that hopefully my life and my legacy and my journey shows people that if you can stick to something, that almost anything is possible, you know? So.
I agree. I think that's perfect. And I'm sorry I missed that question out, because it's such a good answer as well.
Yeah.
I'll definitely put that one in the reel.
Awesome.